Hey, what's going on, Wes?
Not much, bro. You know how it goes. Flying in by the seat of my pants as usual.
Oh, good, good, because that's the only way I know how to fly. I fly either coach or by the seat of my pants. It's cheaper.
They won't let me on planes anymore. But that's a story for another day.
Oh, damn. I hope it has something to do with alcohol, because I'm almost not allowed on planes anymore because of alcohol.
That's part of the equation. Well, hold on a second. My bad. I'm sorry. I had the YouTube player echoing your every word in my my ears. But yeah, drinking half of the equation. The other half, Chipotle. Do the math.
Whoa. Okay. It makes my story sound dumb, but I will say, but my story does not involve Chipotle. Chipotle involves alcohol, a funeral, and a painting. But you know what? We'll save that for another time. And, and now that you're all very curious, I think it's time to start the show.
Let's go.
This is PSVR Gamescast Live, where we film live every single Monday, Wednesday, and 2 Wise Friday. Not always true, but you know what? We do the best we can. Right here on YouTube, we do it live for your viewing pleasure. 6 p.m. Eastern, if you like to listen with your eyes. If you like to watch with your ears, we do it on podcast services of your choice, uploaded by our good friend Jay Meow. If you don't like watching this live because we talk about lots of stuff you don't care about, we get it. There's a limited amount of time in the day. You got other stuff to do, other podcasts to listen to. Don't worry, Sci-Fi Game Cat Henry, who I think is on vacation for the next 2 weeks, so this is totally irrelevant, is not putting timestamps into this fucker. If anybody wants to put timestamps in and mail me the timestamps without parole@gmail.com. Otherwise, it might not happen for 2 weeks. I apologize. I don't have that kind of time either. My name is Brian Paul from this channel right here, PSVR Parole. And this gentleman over here to my right, it's Wes Dillon from Virtual Strangers. What's going on, Wes?
It's Wednesday, bro. I get to take a break. I get to sit here, hang out with the Game Cats, talk VR. It's my favorite time of the week, Brian. Except for maybe Friday night and Sunday afternoon. Those are pretty.
And we're back. All right. Well, you know what, man? This is going to be one hell of a show. I can tell already. Wes, while we're dealing with technical problems, can you turn your mic down a little bit, and I'll turn it up from my end? It seems like might be distorting just a little bit.
Yeah, I think my the gain knob on my microphone and the IPD adjustment on my PSVR2 came from the same place, because they tend to move a lot on their own.
Oh, it's not just me then. That's perfect.
Yeah. No, I have to adjust it every time.
Yeah, I every single time I put on my PSVR2 headset, before and after the Hans VR lenses, like they just get further and further and further away. So I don't know what needs to be done about that.
Mine move in the other direction. Mine get closer together, and I have to pull them out
for real.
Every time.
I figured it was just my nose occasionally bumping the bridge, right? And so kind of like boom, 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 kind of touch. But they get closer. That's crazy. So I don't know what the problem is then. Not so.
It's probably I clean my lenses way too much. Like every time I take it off, I clean the lenses. Every time I pick it up, I clean the lenses. I'm probably pushing them, most likely.
Yeah. Okay. Who the fuck knows? I did not get a haircut, you guys. I've just been wearing a hat nonstop for the last 3 years. So you had no idea what was happening underneath the hat. This is what's been happening underneath the hat. I apologize. It's not better. The big reveal was not very interesting. Guys, you should already know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because some of you all might be new. Make sure you click the description below and go head on over to Virtual Strangers and subscribe to their channel, because Wes here, my friend, hangs out with his friends. Oh, look, the Virtual Strangers shirt. I really need to get on the Without Parole merch train. They talk about all VR over there. Very long form content. So if you like your streams to not crash and go for very, very long periods of time.
Don't promise that, bro. You think you have technical difficulties. It's a weekly thing for us, even still.
Okay, well, then we're all held together by duct tape and wire coat hangers. Although people keep coming by to take my wire coat hangers, there must be something going on. I don't know why everybody needs wire coat hangers all of a sudden. It's crazy. Time to play VR in the chat with the 2 Quid says, why do you like Sunday afternoons, Wes?
Because, well, I mean, that's when I get to hang out with my good friend Roots and recap all of the week's VR news. That's what we do. That's how we roll. That's how we've been doing for almost 4 years, or maybe over 4 years now. We do news on Sunday, and that's how I keep up to date with, as Bryan said, all VR platforms.
It's also a good way to, especially on Sunday. I think Sunday is like a good way to restart yourself for the next week. And, it's like you got to get out the entire last week out of the way so you can make room for the next week. That's my theory. I'm sticking with it. I don't know. Lots of stuff going on, you guys. Make sure you join our Discord. Click the link in the description below. If you want to leave a viewer takeover question, you don't feel like tipping, we get it, man. Like that's totally cool. We want to make this as easy as possible for you. And so a lot of what we're going to be doing today is going to be tackling your viewer takeover questions. A lot of people left some great viewer takeover questions on the Discord today already in the viewer takeover channel, and that's where we're going to be pulling a lot of these from. So if you feel like leaving one, we're going to be hanging out here for the next hour and a half and tackling your questions. So let's see what that's all about. Before we really get going, though, Wes, it was funny. Tiffany, by the way, Peter the Underground Game Cat on Parole with a $2 tip says, "Do you know who else likes Sundays, Wes?"
Oh, I do, and yes, she does. But she likes every day, bro. Every day's a party for her.
We've got an article that Tiffany had sent me, and sorry, things are breaking over here as we speak. I don't know if you guys can hear all these alerts and stuff, but you might be able to. Let me see if I can bring this up here without anything breaking down. This is a great article. I love when it just feels. It kind of feels like clickbait when certain websites are publishing articles that they know nothing about. like I don't know, the 9 best PlayStation VR games of 2023. This is is this Electronics Hub? What's the website? It's electronicshub.org. This is crazy. The nine best PlayStation VR games of 2023. Wes, when you hear a title like this, wouldn't you assume that these are the best PlayStation VR games that came out this year?
Yeah, you would think so. When I first saw this title line, I was thinking, all right, we're going to see what this author thinks about the PlayStation VR2 launch. Mm-hmm. But that's not this. This is the 9 best PSVR games, PSVR 1 games of 2023. And then when I think about that, has there even been 9 launched this year, Bryan? I'm not sure that there has.
PSVR 1 games, no. As of today, there's Awesome Asteroids came out today. I think Headcount came out this year. That's kind of all I can think of. I think
maybe Survive. Did Survive come out this year?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong about that.
No.
I don't know. They say ever since VR's come out, there's been a lot of VR game releases over the years, with each one offering a mind-blowing experience. The same goes for PlayStation, as Sony has been supporting VR headsets in games since 2016 with PlayStation. So they kind of clarify here. It's just a weirdly named article is all. Certainly, there's maybe 9 best PlayStation VR games as of 2023 would have been interesting. Would have been a way to go. But let's scroll through this a bit and see what they think the 9 best, apparently, PlayStation VR 1 games of all time are. So we're going to start here with Batman PlayStation VR. So not Batman Arkham VR, Batman PlayStation VR, which is, I think we can agree, Wes, a wonderful launch title, a wonderful experience. Would not, especially in 2023, fall into my even top 40.
No, definitely not. It was a great wow moment for early VR.
Yeah.
stepping into that menu screen and kind of taking in Gotham City. I mean, the graphics of the game still hold up today. I mean, it's a beautiful game. The gameplay in 2023 just isn't quite there anymore. But it's still worth your time. I mean, there's some fun stuff in there. 9 best. I mean, that would have been hard to say in 2018, let alone 2023.
Yeah, agreed. So that's an interesting first one to put on there. Rick and Morty, PlayStation VR, also known as virtual reality. We basically panned this game from the minute it released. It was super low on content. Certainly sirens on my end. Certainly not the Rick and Morty game I think most fans deserved. Has never even come up for consideration on a top 10, top 25, top 50 list. Nothing.
Yeah, and how weird is it that we've got so many great games from this studio, but the one that you think that they would knock it out of the park with is the one they kind of dropped the bag.
And so many great games from the studio, and this is the one that electronicshub.org chose.
Yeah, right.
We also have Walking Dead, which if you click the link is Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. And so finally, something worthwhile of being on a top 9 list. So I have to agree with him on that. Yeah,
well, one of the best, if not the best, VR game of all time. Great.
Followed up by the Walking Dead Onslaught on PSVR.
You mean Onslaught PlayStation VR?
Yeah. I'm scrolling way further down here. They actually give descriptions of some of these things, and I guarantee, Wes, that some of these descriptions are probably hilarious.
Sure.
Yeah.
Onslaught's okay. It's not great. It's better than it was when it launched. They did update it a little bit. I would call it a very average game. It's par for the course, middle of the road type game, and I could take it or leave it.
One of the notable aspects of The Walking Dead Onslaught is its intense and visceral combat. Players can engage in up close melee combat or use a variety of ranged weapons. I don't know if that's notable. It actually has pros and cons. The cons, under the cons, it lists best features, then pros and cons. And under the cons, the only thing they have listed is only suitable for mature audiences. That's the only con they could think of, the Onslaught.
Maybe they're into running from the red fog.
Maybe. I liked that more than I should have. Astrobot Rescue Mission, or also known as Astro PlayStation VR. Who can deny this? This is a top 10 game all day, every day. I like this.
Best VR platformer of all time by a fair margin.
Agreed. Procedural Games in the chat says AI article, and it reeks of an AI article, right? It feels like it just pulled a bunch of shit from a bunch of different websites, and this is what we got. And I kind of love it, honestly.
And by the way, the AI is much better now. This is like GPT 2.5 or something. We're on GPT 4.2 now. So yeah.
Just want to say one of the best features for Astrobot is the game belongs to puzzle solver genre. Also, one of the cons may not be appealing title for adults or teenagers. Not teenagers, Wes. Kids who are 10. Teenagers.
Well, I mean, that's good because they're not supposed to be playing VR anyway, unless they own a Meta Quest, which Meta just dropped the age limit down to 10. But
they're expanding their audience in any way possible. I love it.
Right, they're including teenagers now. So we can eliminate AI. AI would not have misspelled teenagers. I don't think.
Yeah, I think teenagers might have misspelled teenagers.
I think this article might have been written by a teenager overseas somewhere.
Number 6, Demon Slayer, which I can assure you is not a PlayStation VR game. So I'm very interested to see what it thinks, like why it thinks this should be a PSVR game. Wait, did you see this in the con column?
I just noticed it right when you did.
I was going to read through the pros and cons, but in the cons it says it doesn't have VR support, which makes it one of the worst PlayStation VR games.
Yeah, this might be the worst PSVR game of 2023.
So now I'm really confused. How did it make a list of the best PlayStation VR games when they themselves are aware that it doesn't have PlayStation VR support? This is my favorite article of all time, Wes.
I know. It just made my day so much better.
Farpoint, which absolutely I can see on any top 10 list. That's fine by me. Oh my god, the cons. Look at the con. The movement is teleportation based instead of free movement like other games. Farpoint is 100% full locomotion. Does it have a teleportation option? Like, I mean, if it does, I never played it. Maybe it does.
Yeah, I don't remember ever teleporting in that game. I mean, it might be in there, but I don't think it's defaulted on. If it is, like, that's weird.
Unbelievable. Ace Combat PlayStation VR. I can only imagine what the cons. The con says it may not be an ideal choice for first-person shooter fans. It's also not an ideal choice for real-time strategy fans. Just to keep that
puzzler fans
or horror game fans. Not an ideal choice for any of these. Yeah.
Racing. Yeah.
Number 9, Doom 3, which they just list as Doom. That's not confusing. This is my favorite thing now. Under the cons, gameplay and graphics are a bit dated compared to new AAA titles. Which, I mean, that's actually fine.
That's fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Best feature, best first-person shooter experience in VR. Single-player experience. The game belongs in the action horror genre. This one seems spot on. And I think that's it. I think that's all 9 titles.
You know what's funny? Like, I prefer Doom VFR, but they probably disqualified it because of the forced teleport in it, which is apparently something they don't like.
Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, by the way, their con is a relatively expensive title compared to other options. All right.
There's a sale coming up, apparently. If it hasn't dropped yet already, 25% off both titles. So how about that?
All right. Well, electronicshub.org, you are my new favorite website. Thank you so much for all of that. We've got a bunch of tips to read. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and entertaining us while we entertained ourselves. Antone Jones with the $5 tip says, Meta's take on God of War VR is Asgard's Wrath. Sony take on God of War VR. Kratos, Call of the Mountain. True or false? Better not be true. What do you think? Yeah, what do you think a God of War built from the ground up VR game would be like from Sony, Wes? Do you think he has?
I think it would be awesome. I think that God of War is pretty close to the model example of the type of experiences that we want from Sony PSVR2 in the next few years. I think it's a perfect title to bring into VR. I think it's that type of action adventure game that translates well. It's the type of game that Sony's known for. So yeah, I think it would. I think it's one of the, as far as the modern Sony catalog goes, it's one of the top titles that would be kind of compatible with VR gameplay.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Blades of Chaos. Or the Chains of Chaos, Blades of Chaos would be amazing to wield in VR, right? Like to just, man, I could feel myself throwing those and using eye tracking to target in on my target. Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
For what it's worth, this makes so much sense that this is one of the ones I expect that we will eventually get God of War VR.
And you think it'll be something built from the ground up? They'll do the Call of the Mountain treatment.
I think it makes sense. I mean, the VR gameplay is so different than the kind of gamepad stuff that they've got going on with God of War.
Yeah,
it would make sense to do a built from the ground up game. I don't know that they will. They may try to Capcom it and kind of build a game that's in between that, plays okay as a flat game and plays okay as a VR game, if that makes sense.
I think so. I think it would be. I think you could certainly make if you made a flat screen God of War game, but you kept in mind the fact that it was going to be a hybrid game. And when it came to all your gameplay and design decisions, I think they could absolutely do it. There'd probably just be a whole lot more climbing.
Yeah, right.
Looper, the Underground Gamecast, says, wasn't God of War one of the earliest PSVR 1 demos? Yeah, it was actually the very first thing we ever saw running on a PlayStation VR 1 in 2014, I think, 2015, whenever Shuhei unveiled it at a GDC. It was the very first thing we ever saw running, and it was fucking cool. We were like, oh, damn, we're going to get God of War on PlayStation VR. And it's basically, yeah, they just shoved some God of War assets into VR, and they had fun with it. No reason we couldn't get one of those.
I wonder if that's what's going to become of the so-called rumored Returnal demo that apparently a few people have played. I wonder if that was just kind of a tech demo thing, or if it's actually something that they're working on.
Fingers crossed. Antonio Jackson with a $2 tip says, did you already respond on the PSVR2 PC port? No. I think the PC port, you think he's talking about getting PSVR2 working on PC? I think we've got
somebody's working on that. There's a third party working on that, and apparently they've had some pretty huge success in a short time period. Like they've already got the thing authenticating through a PC, so it believes that it's connected to a PlayStation, basically.
Yeah,
which is a pretty big stride considering we're so early on, and typically these things take years to iron out. So yeah, I think it's going to happen. I don't know if we'll get official support for it. I think that's a 50-50 chance. I think there's a good chance that one day they do officially support PC. But I think we'll see it one way or the other before the end of the life cycle.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it'll come from a mod first. I'm going to kind of jump around here a little bit because we're on the topic. Swag King in our Viewer Takeover channel. Remember, go to Discord, leave your Viewer Takeover questions in the Viewer Takeover channel. Swag King wrote, what do you think of the recent breakthroughs in PSVR 2 on PC? Would you buy an adapter to make it work? We might end up getting Half-Life Alyx regardless of whether Valve ports it over or not. Here's hoping. What do you think, man? Do you think that would PlayStation VR 2 be your preferred headset to use on PC if it suddenly became compatible one way or another?
Today, absolutely it would. It's my favorite headset that I've ever used. So if I could use it on PC VR, as someone who already plays PC VR, I would pay a moderate amount of money to be able to use my PlayStation VR 2, so long as everything worked the way it's supposed to, and there isn't a bunch of jank associated with modding it or whatever. But to be clear, when I talk about, I think Sony might officially support PC use, I don't necessarily mean that they're going to make it an official Steam VR headset. I think that there's a possibility that Sony kind of makes it work with their games on PC. Okay. So they bring their VR games to PC the same way that they're bringing their flat games to PC, and then maybe that'll work in those cases. Now, I mean, it's possible they could work something out with Epic Games or Steam or something to make it work in a larger context. But I think Sony's building towards something, and I think that it's very possible that in the next few years we're going to see a PlayStation client on PC, yep. Not just for VR, but in general, like the same type of thing that you see with Electronic Arts, or Rockstar Games, or Ubisoft. I think PlayStation will have the same thing going on, and I think that they could work some VR functionality into that as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that that's the future for PlayStation. I think that they're obviously expanding their mobile division, and they basically bought a team that is committed to porting their games over to PC. And so they're definitely branching out in a much different way than Xbox is. They want to make sure that they're selling you games on all of these different platforms and not just allowing you to play them everywhere. And I think a PlayStation storefront on PC is absolutely the next logical step. I think they're just kind of playing nice with Epic and Steam until they're totally ready to do it. Because I think once they do it, no one's going to play nice anymore. So we'll see what happens. Twitcher, the single player game cat with the 2 quid, says, I like custard. I like flan. Is that wrong? I mean, flan's a type of custard, right?
Flan is disgusting. When I hear custard, I think about frozen custard, like it's almost like soft serve ice cream, like a frozen yogurt. Oh. That's what I like. I like that. Flan is nasty crap.
How do you feel about creme brulees?
I don't know if I've ever had one, to be honest. I don't think so.
Bro, just cracking. I feel like I'm quoting Amelie right now, but just and if anybody even fucking gets that reference, just whatever. Like, where am I right now? But like cracking the top of a creme brulee is like, I don't know, it's something very satisfying about just taking your spoon and going thunk, and then it cracks, and then you kind of like eat the blowtorch sugar along with the custard. Yeah. It's really good.
I'm not cultured enough, Brian. I've never done this, so
I only know because of the restaurants I work in. All the restaurants I've ever worked in have been my only culture. That's it.
That makes sense. I spent a good deal of time working at a Mexican restaurant, and that's the reason why I know that Flan sucks. Or Flan.
Oh man, we had some of the best Flan where I worked, so that's, I guess, the answer there. Loopy Underground Game Cat, in reference to the article we just read through with the €2, says, do they have Star Wars PlayStation VR there? Which narrows it down to I'm not sure what game.
Well, I thought it was funny that they had the Walking Dead PlayStation VR, and then right after it, Onslaught PlayStation VR.
Right.
So you were wondering which one the first one was, but then it was obvious when you saw the next one.
Yeah, the fact that they front loaded that entire article with nothing but like Amazon affiliate links, that's where the money's coming from. That 100%. And that's the only reason that article exists, because of affiliate links. Now let's Ryan, the Game Feline with the $5 says, man, I love hubris. And Brian, since you asked earlier, the only time I see reprojection is when I'm looking for it. Easy to see, even easier to ignore.
Yep.
I gotta tell you, like last week I got on here and started talking about my Hans VR lenses, which are still on my PSVR2. I have not gotten any other ones in the mail, so these are the only ones I've tried. Dude, night and day, reprojection isn't as much of an issue. Ghosting isn't as much of an issue. Everything looks crystal clear and sharp. Like I said last week, I've always loved my PSVR2 headset since day one. Well, until it broke and I had to send it back, and I still haven't gotten a new one. I still haven't gotten my replacement. I bought a new one that night. It's been
still haven't gotten an update on the website.
Weeks with no update. I called them and they were like, "Oh no, they got it and they're fixing it. It'll be back to you in mid-July." And I was like, "You're just gonna like hold on to somebody's headset for 2 months, Sony?" I'm like, "That's ridiculous, ridiculous." But yeah, man, like I as much as I love my PSVR2 at launch, I love it even more with these Hans VR lenses. If you have even a slight prescription, highly recommend it. I think they were on sale for $50 recently here in the States. So not a bad deal if you want to enjoy your headset even more. Also,
awesome.
Also, I loved hubris. Loved hubris. I feel like if I was to re-review it, my score would come down ever so slightly. 9.0, I think is. I'm not going to go back on that, but I think it's because. Go ahead.
It is kind of rare air up there, right? When you start to get to 9s and 10s, you're talking about some of the best games ever.
Well,
right?
And I think more of it has to do with all of the complaints I've heard, because I had only one section of climbing problems in Hubris, only one section, where it's like one specific area, like things weren't registering properly, and I was like, "What's this about?" And I even sent you the clip to send to the developers and say, like, "What's this up? What's up with this?" Because everything else is working perfectly. And then everybody I've talked to since then, since the reviews come out, has been like, "Oh man, the climbing needs a lot of work." And I was like, "What?"
No, it doesn't. There's one issue with the climbing, and that is you have to have your hands at a certain angle, and it has to be at that angle no matter where your body positioning is. So if you're climbing something directly in front of you, you have your hands like this, everything works perfectly. The problem is when you're above or below, your hands still have to be at that same angle. But after you figure that out, and I guess maybe a lot of people haven't figured this out, after you figure that out, then the climbing works perfectly. You just have to make sure your hands are at the right angle, and they grab 100% of the time. But the developers are aware of this. I made sure that they were aware of it time and time again. So hopefully we'll be seeing an update to address that. I can tell you a lot of the other little nitpicky things that people have pointed out about the game are being addressed.
Nice.
In an upcoming update. And yeah, I think it's great as it is, but it's going to even get even better. So
Nice. It's interesting. You're not the first person I've heard say about the the palms being up or out, because I just did what felt natural for the entire time. At the beginning, I was talking to Dan from Electric Hat, and he just finished Hubris, and he was talking about those rock platforms at the very beginning that you have to shoot to make them rise up out of the water. And on PC VR, I think you and I both had the same problem, Wes. Like, I struggled to jump from one to the other and grab ledges and pull myself up on them. And meanwhile, here I am on PSVR2, feeling like I'm playing a game of leapfrog, where I'm just grabbing it and thrusting myself up, grabbing it and thrust, and just being like, oh man, they nailed the climbing on PSVR2. And then I hear from everybody else, no, they didn't. I'm like, what? And that's what I don't know. That's why. Hopefully, they can address all of these little issues, and then the game will raise back up to the score that I gave it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Nice.
But by the way, it is, from what I can tell, it's largely well received. There are a few naysayers, but for the most part, people are digging the game. And, I don't know what kind of official info is out there right now, but apparently it's doing pretty well. Like people are buying it, which is good.
Nick Mulo in the chat says, is Dan really from Electric Hat these days? Not, yeah. I mean, where you're from is where you're from. You can't change that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, some people
might not be there right now, but he's from there still.
That's right. Dan is working on Behemoth over at Skydance. If you're wondering where To The Top is on PSVR 2 or where Super Kid is, he's working on Behemoth instead. And I will take that trade. Although once Behemoth is done, I want To The Top. Macho Vasquez with the $10 tip says, hey guys, I can tip today. Thanks, Macho. We appreciate you. I've been waiting too long for another stream. I'm sorry about Monday, my friend. I'm so hyped for two games that I'm so hyped for two games that are copies of two other great non-VR games. Grimlord, which is a Souls-like, and Ghost of Tabor, which is a Tarkov ripoff. I say ripoff in the nicest possible way, because we want ripoffs, even if it's inspired. Have you played Grimlord, Wes?
I tried to play Grimlord before it launched on my HP Reverb G2, and the controller binding didn't completely work. Like I could move around and do some basic things, but some of the finer functions of the game I wasn't able to do. So I put it down and haven't been back since. It was late. I didn't want to grab my other headset. And I just said, you know what, we'll come back to it. With that said, Grimlord is on the maybe list for our show this Friday. So Friday, we're going to cover Synapse. We're going to cover Dead Hook VR. And if we do a third title, and it's largely up to whether or not my co-hosts have time to play it or not, we're going to do Grimlord. And I might even do it live. Typically, if we have a game we want to cover and they don't have time for it, I'll just play it live on the show. So I'd say that, 60-40 chance that we cover Grimlord this week, but I do have access to it. And I can say, well, the only thing I can really say firsthand is that it looks really good visually. But I've noticed that everyone seems to be going nuts over it and saying that it's really, really good. So I will be playing it, maybe even tonight.
Nice. Yeah, I was talking to Austin Tatum. I don't know if he's here or not in the chat, but he was saying it's really good. He's saying it's not great, but really good. I think he seems really happy with it. So I'm very curious to see how that all turns out. And I think the last tip we have before we move on to some of these viewer takeover questions, let me make sure that that's actually accurate. And no, I was absolutely wrong. We got a couple more questions before we move on to the actual viewer takeover questions. Get in my belly, GameCat Wilkins, with the membership super chat. Love this. It says, any thought on early release of Behemoth? I don't know what that means, but it's already June 28th, 2023, and all we've seen is a cinematic trailer of Behemoth. And it ended by saying coming late 2023. We are dangerously close to late 2023, so I don't know when that game could come out to actually make it an early release.
Yeah, I think it would have to come very soon to call it an early release, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a holiday game. This is going to be a headset seller at the end of the year, and I mean they launched Saints and Sinners 2 in December last year. Now I'm hoping that they don't wait quite that late. You know, I'd like to see it maybe in November. That's typically a good time to release a game with new headsets coming out and holiday sales and the whole deal. So I would expect to start to see a little bit of promotion, maybe late August, September. We should start to see them kind of show us some gameplay and build hype a little bit. Then, I would think.
I mean, just gameplay, man. Like that's, I almost don't care when the game comes out at this point. I just want to see what it looks like. Right, take as much time as you need to get that game awesome, because it looks like there's some Monster Hunter stuff going on here. It looks like there's some Shadow of the Colossus stuff going on here. This is the kind of stuff we've been kind of begging for in VR for years. You know, basically these adaptations of flat screen games that we love. Like how many times a day, Wes, does somebody say, they start talking about a game and they go, "Oh, that'd be great in VR." Like it's like 17 times every single day. Yeah. And so, you know, if we can finally get something like Behemoth that delivers on something like that, I think it'd be cool.
Agreed.
Getting my belly, Game Cat Wilkins with a $3 tip, follows it up with a little emoji, a sheep dog happily massaging his cheeks with his mouth wide open. I love how they have these really descriptive descriptions of the emotes. Virtual Authority Australia with the Australian $5 tip says, seeing a lot of broken USB-C connections lately. I got a $30 pulley system to avoid this. Interested in knowing if many game cats use a pulley system. I'll go first. No. I used one for PSVR 1 for a while. Ever since my PSVR 2 broke, it's just been like, I just gotta like kind of, you know, it's just been sort of like the wire's been like running across the floor, and I'm only a few feet away from my PlayStation 5, so it really doesn't need to be on a pulley system for me personally, and the wire's not getting in the way. So I may set that back up at some point, but I'm not there right now. What about you, Wes?
Yeah, I've never used one. It just seems like something that would be a bit more friction and hassle for me than I'm prepared to do. Eric uses one. He uses it religiously and talks about how great it is all the time. So there are people out there that are using them. Just not me. I play seated 90% of the time anyway. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to have a pulley system in here.
Right. I love experimenting when reviewing games, seeing like what games work well standing, what games work well seated. And I don't know if I'm just getting old, man, but like, the first hour of me getting in there, like, because you know these things last about 4.5 hours or so, right? On a single charge. And so the first hour of that 4.5 hours is me standing and being very active, and then the last 3.5 hours tend to be me just sitting down, seeing, can I get away with playing this setting? And but it's good. It's good, dude. I was playing Survive last night on PSVR 2.
Yeah, I know. I was so jealous. Like, I so wanted to play when you went in.
That's not something I expected anybody to say when I said I was playing Survive last night, because no one I was playing with was jealous.
I wanted to play. I still want to play.
Good. Well, I mean, I'm going to review the game. Like, I really want Survive to be one of my next reviews after Synapse, because that seems to be the one that most people are requesting. Everybody's dying for a good zombie game. Spoilers. Survive is not a good zombie game. Like, it is a janky zombie game. So I was playing with MRI and Awesome Tatum, right? So we only had a team of 3. And so, for the love of God, if anybody's around tonight, like, let's get at least 4 players tonight, and let's get a couple hours into this thing. Once you get used to the jank, and there is so much jank, with friends, there's something to Survive. Like, I kind of like what's happening. But man, if you try to play that alone, or even with just one other person, I just can't, dude. I just can't. There's something not right about it.
Is it easy to get in a lobby? That's all I really want to know, because I know what the game is. I played it before, but it's always been trouble to be able to connect with friends and get a private game going.
When you know how to do it, and what I mean is, like, you obviously knew what you were doing, but last night I was waiting for people to join me, and then I realized I didn't explain to them how to do it, because you walk into the menu screen, and the menu screen has like zombies hanging down. It's got this wall of menu options. The 3 zombies have signs on them that like, oh, story mode, survival, or trials or something, right? So it's giving you all these options, and there's nothing for multiplayer anywhere, right? So you think everything you need is right in front of you. But you have a tablet where if you reach behind your back and pull the trigger, you pull a tablet out that has your map and multiplayer options and shit like that on. So I was waiting around for like 15 minutes, not realizing I didn't tell these guys how to fucking join my game. And so once we did that, they seemed to be able to join no problem.
Good.
And so I think they've worked out all the multiplayer kinks in terms of getting into a game. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Because before it was like, I knew how to do it. But like my friends couldn't see me online and I couldn't see them. And I'd do a private room and I'd send them the code and they couldn't get in. But then I had rando strangers guess my code and come in and join my private game. It was pretty much a nightmare in terms of networking.
Yeah. Yep. When I was trying to play the PSVR 1 version, I ran into a ton of problems. No one could see each other's games. Even when you couldn't join. Yeah, it was a mess. Get my belly, Game Cat Wilkins, with the $20 tip. I know who's paying for pizza tonight. Thank you, my friend. It says he was just hoping to play Behemoth soon. Yeah. I just, again,
I need it to be good. It doesn't have to be soon. It just needs to be right.
One of the questions I want to talk about during today's show, one of the viewer takeover questions, I'm sort of paraphrasing Prentice Summerscale's question because he left it in the comments section over on YouTube. He says, CSMASH VRS is having a troublingly low player base at launch. And Wes, I want to talk to you about that and figure out whose fault that is. Is this a uniquely VR thing? Is this a uniquely PlayStation VR thing? Whose fault is it that multiplayer games are launching and no one's playing them?
Well, I would speculate that it's a combination of things. And I say speculate because I haven't played it. I haven't played it. It doesn't really look like my type of game.
Oh, so it's your fault. It's your fault that no one's playing it.
It's completely my fault. Yeah. Yeah, it's my fault. Totally. But no, I mean, first of all, competitive multiplayer just isn't everyone's bag. Like not everyone likes to play these types of games. And that's not even considering the athletic aspect of it.
Yeah.
A lot of players like me like to just sit and play single player adventure games all the time. So there's that aspect of it. Also, it's not very sexy to look at. I mean, it's when you look at gameplay footage or even like the key art, it's all pretty bland and generic looking. So it isn't something that particularly gets people all excited to check it out. Just, a lot of games, they're just so pretty and cool looking that even if it's not your genre, you'll get in and check it out just so you can see what it looks like in the headset.
Spark.
This isn't that type of game.
Spark was a good example of that. It just looked cool. You're like, oh, what are you doing? Like, I want to see this. Yeah, I agree. If you're not a fan of the old Dreamcast aesthetic, then I can totally see that. I myself, it took me a while to kind of acclimate to it. Like, even playing the demo, I was like, I'm not sure if I really like the way this looks. But playing through the full game, I kind of got used to it and sort of became enamored with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, this could be a great game. But, I mean, it's already a niche within a niche within a niche. And then, it's highly risky to launch a multiplayer-only game, which there might be a single-player mode in there. I don't really want to call it that, but it's a game that's designed to be played with people. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not enough single player, but it's there. It's definitely, it feels like it has a multiplayer focus.
But any kind of multiplayer game that's focused on multiplayer, it's risky to launch because having a successful launch it's imperative that people are in the lobbies. Yeah. Like people will put this game down, even the ones that are interested in it will put it down if there aren't people to play with. And a lot of that goes back to some of the things I already mentioned. And another thing is pricing. Like if the success of your game wholly depends on getting people in there to play it, it has to be priced very, very competitively. Like you need to make people you need to price it so that people aren't thinking about whether or not they should buy it. Like they should look at it and say, oh, is that all it costs?
Yeah.
Let me in there. And if you're on Quest or PC, these types of games often are $10 or even free to play. So having a game that's $30 that isn't all that sexy to begin with, and has a limited audience to start, like it's kind of a recipe for disaster. Hopefully, the game is good enough on its own merits that word of mouth will allow it to kind of slowly grow and build up over time. But that isn't something that happens often with these multiplayer games.
Yeah, I feel like the game was relatively lacking at launch, and they're already making strides to add content to it, get the co-op mode in, and co-op is really the thing I was looking forward to the most in this. I do think that price is probably the biggest obstacle. If you would, people, if they'd put this out for $10, and I know that's a ridiculously low price. People put years of work into games, and they say, "Well, you just want us to give it away." Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, free to play with microtransactions. You find a way to monetize the thing. It's like, is that the way? I hate to even bring it up because microtransactions and free to play have such negative connotations. But like, if this isn't working, then we have to figure out what will. Especially with VR being a much smaller niche community. If all the game cats aren't playing CSMASH, well then who is? Right? Like what's the community out there that is playing it? And it seems like, well, the game cats aren't playing it. And most of the other people out there in the Twitterverse, in the Redditverse, aren't really playing it. Then who is? So, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see where this goes. But I do want to say, while we're on the topic, Wes, I've gotten a couple comments lately from people calling me a shill, and I always that's always a very nice way to shake my hand and say, "Hey, Brian, I have a thought for you. You fucking shill," because then I'm really going to listen, right?
Right.
But people call me a shill for not addressing things like the lack of player base in Knock or the lack of player base in CSMASH in my reviews. Just want to let everybody know, man, I play these games before launch. So like, I have to find people, other reviewers, other people on the Without Parole crew to play these games with. There's no one playing before launch for the most part. Unless it's cross-buy.
Right, and you're judging the game. You're not judging the community. Like, the community is going to be what it's going to be. You're trying to tell people whether or not they should try the game and maybe become part of that community.
Right.
Which, I would understand if people wanted to criticize you post-mortem. Like, if you're talking about a game after it launched, a year after it launched,
right,
and it has an issue with people not being in there, and you don't mention that's a valid criticism. But in a game review, you're reviewing the game, so it's kind of ridiculous that someone would suggest that.
My biggest problem is they want me to be psychic. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, right? I wish I had that power, and then I could tell you, make sure you buy this, guys, because you're gonna want to be really good, blah blah blah, or don't buy this because no one's going to be playing it. Like, I wish I had that power, because obviously I want to give you guys as much information as possible in a review, but yeah, I'm not bringing it up to protect the developers or protect the publishers or whatever, or convince you to buy the game. I don't give a fuck if you buy the game. So many people think that like right, somehow the game's success influenced me in the slightest, and they don't. I don't care if no one buys CSMASH, right? It doesn't affect me in the slightest. So I just find it funny that people like to lash out, not at the developers for maybe pricing it too high. They want to lash out at the reviewer that gave it a 6.4 and is still considered a shill. This is the fucking dumbest shit I've ever heard, Wes, and I just wanted to air those grievances live on the air.
How dare you give this game a D- when it deserves an F, you fucking shill.
Right? I mean, I can only imagine that my score is way lower than most people's, and I'm the shill. I have no idea. It's craziness. But
no, you're like the one person that reviewed it, so more like it, shill.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even consider, because I know a lot of people haven't touched it yet, haven't had a chance to get around to it, coming off the back of like Hubris and a few other titles. So that's an excellent point. Because I had Synapse sitting on my hard drive the entire time I had CSMASH sitting on my hard drive. They only sent out CSMASH keys a couple days before launch, and we had Synapse for days before that. So like, so I bet most reviewers were fucking busy playing Synapse instead of this. So okay, I guess that might be the reason. Your mans and dem. Your mans and dem. Oh, your mans and dem. It's $20 tip. Thank you very much, by the way. It says, question. Do you think any of the Grand Theft Auto ripoffs available on mobile will ever come to VR? Seems like a short game and easily adaptable for porting. The ripoffs could help the real Grand Theft Auto work out the jank. I don't play mobile games, and so I'm actually not familiar with any of the Grand Theft Auto ripoffs that Yamans and Dem is discussing. Are you familiar with any of these?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I know that there is a GTA ripoff on Steam VR that is just unfinished and terrible. But I'm not. Yeah, I don't mobile game at all. So I have no clue about this.
Well, this may be a good segue because since we don't really know the answer to your question, Yamans and Dem, I will say I would love if it happened. Right, absolutely love. I want all games to come to VR, and if these are smaller teams and looking to find ways to sell more copies of their game, and they say, hey, it already works on mobile, so I mean, how difficult could it make it to run on PS5 and PSVR2? Probably not terribly. I would love to see a Grand Theft Auto ripoff to actually pave the way for a Grand Theft Auto game. In case, the same way I would love to see a Fortnite style game, like a massive battle royale game with over the top locomotion. I want to see that come to PlayStation VR 2 as well, just so we can kind of point to Epic Games and all the people over there who don't think it would work, like the CEO himself, right? And say, well, look, these guys beat you to the punch. And they showed you how it's done. Now bring your game over. So I would absolutely love that. Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. And speaking of which, now I'm not super familiar with the rumors that have been posting recently, but Rob Harv 11, I believe, is the person who posted this question in our Viewer Takeover channel. Said, with the recent Rockstar voice actor resume leak, what game do you think it's referring to? Is the dream of Grand Theft Auto 5 on PSVR 2 still alive? Wes, are you familiar with this resume leak?
No, but I'm about to be familiar with it. This is interesting.
Resume leak. Just typed it into Google. I want to make sure we get our ducks in a row. Okay, so Games Radar 2 days ago posted an article that said Rockstar might have an unannounced VR game in the works, according to an entry on a voice actor's resume. As first dug up by Reset Era users, actor Michael Ursu has quite the intriguing detail on his resume. Hold on, I gotta knock this down here so this will work again. And Ursu apparently acted on 2 more undisclosed video games, a new Borderlands game and a new game from Genshin Impact developer MiHoYo. If Ursu wasn't already in line for a rap on the knuckles from Rockstar for this detail, he's probably in line from a stern word from Miyo and Gearbox. It's the Rockstar listing that's obviously the most intriguing of Ursu's projects here. From this little detail, we know that Rockstar is working on something that isn't explicitly Grand Theft Auto 6, which has been in the works for a number of years now, and it was originally announced in February 2022. The VR game wouldn't be the first time Rockstar has delved into VR. Obviously, they've done the LA Noire VR spinoff, blah, 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 blah. Just earlier this May, Rockstar's owned hinted at a potential 2024 launch for Grand Theft Auto 6. It's strange to think, what did this not actually include the fucking... Here, let me click on the resume link.
I'm looking at it. It's not on there anymore.
Oh, so
there's nothing on here.
So he did get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
All right. So let's assume that in no way could this be, just an outdated resume, and that this isn't San Andreas on Quest 3 or something. Let's assume that. What do you think this would be, Wes? What's the most likely thing that this would be?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, if it's not Grand Theft Auto, and I don't really follow their logic as to why this couldn't be that. I don't know. I guess maybe they think it could be a VR game because he has some experience doing voice in VR before. This person apparently worked on Wanderer. So, I mean, maybe that's where they're getting that from. But I don't know, man. Obviously, it could be anything. We do know that Rockstar is working on a VR game. So if it's not GTA, that's really the only other thing that we know of confirmed that they're working on. We don't know what that game is. I mean, that could be the GTA San Andreas VR game that's coming out, or it could be another VR game. I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. There's really I don't see much here to kind of discern what this could even be.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, obviously the dream, right? If Rockstar and Sony have been working closely, the game that Sony would want on PSVR2 would be Grand Theft Auto 5. I think so, at least, right? They want Grand Theft Auto 5. They want Grand Theft Online because they want this persistent world, and they want a game that people we know sells. Period. Right? Minecraft probably sold a couple PSVR2 headsets. Skyrim probably sold a couple PSVR2 headsets. I don't think there's a bigger name than like Grand Theft Auto and probably Call of Duty that would sell PSVR2 headsets. And so that's why I've been kind of going to bat for Grand Theft Auto 5 for a couple of years now, saying if Sony really wants this thing to sell, then they will make whatever deal they need to with Rockstar in order to get this thing over on their headset. So I guess we'll see if that's the case or not. I think like Red Dead makes more sense, honestly, because there's less skydiving and there's less crazy over the top shit. But fuck it, man. I'd much rather do the crazy over the top shit than ride a horse around.
GTA 5 Online would be the end all be all. If you could play that in first person VR, no one will ever play anything else, period. This is going to be something that people want to live in because that's typically what people do who play that. They live in there and they go to work in there and they rob people and they become prostitutes or drug dealers. It's literally Westworld is what it is. It's people going in and doing things inside virtual reality that we can't do in real life and no consequences, right? It's being able to live in God mode with no consequences. And I think that's very appealing to a lot of people, especially young people today. And I think that's why we call it the singularity. When this game comes, everything's going to change after that, I believe.
Did you call it Westworld?
Maybe.
I mean, it is West Day, right?
That's true.
Right. Oh man. So let's hope. Let's hope that the dream's not dead. A couple more tips though before we get on to the rest of viewer takeover questions. Macho Vasquez with the $20 tip says, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with good old, not good old, it's Ghost of Tabor. Good old Tabor leading up to the VR2 release, but the updates have been getting good feedback. It looks amazing and is playing a lot more like Tarkov in VR. I could lose days in that game. Yeah, I mean, I'm super fucking excited. I haven't been keeping up with Ghost of Tabor at all because I can barely keep up with the stuff that's like, coming out next week and the week after. So I'm kind of just taking each day as it comes. But that's really, really good to hear because the only thing I didn't like about Tarkov was how janky and ugly it looked on Quest. So if it's pretty and it plays nice and smooth, I'm going to be a happy boy.
Yeah, it's great right now, and it's only going to get better. There are plans to add so much more into that game, not only like features and things like that, but maps, new maps coming. Like they're putting a ton into Tabor, and by the time it hits PSVR 2, which it could be a little while, but by the time it gets to the PlayStation network, it's going to be unbelievable.
We got Phil Marshall in the chat with the $5. Says Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, possible VR surprise, and could we ever see Lone Echo 1 or 2? Thanks for the great content. Thanks for the great tip, Phil. I'm not gonna lie, right? Because I'm really bad at it, and if I lied, you'd probably all fucking know because I sound terrible when I lie. I was initially very like, oh my god, an Avatar game. Like, of course we're getting an Avatar game, right? They put billions of dollars into the movie. Let's put billions of dollars into a game. But I got to say, the longer that trailer went on Ubisoft Forward or whatever their showcase was called, the longer the trailer went on or the longer the video went on explaining how everything works, the more interested I got, right? I don't care at all about Avatar. I think those movies are boring. Like, hours long where nothing happens, and especially nothing important happens. Like they're pretty. And that's about all I can say about them. They're horribly written and horribly edited. They're just pretty expensive summer blockbuster type things. But man, I feel like the game delivers something that the movies don't, and that's like substance. So I would actually be really into Avatar being a VR game, because I feel like it would take that pretty world and make me want to hang out there, which the movies never did.
Yeah, I'm all for any VR game that has money behind it. Something that has high production values and a certain level of polish. Not that I don't love indie games, but we're starving right now for stuff with budget and team behind it. If we got an Avatar game, I got to imagine it would be a pretty big production. And I'm like you, I don't care about the movies at all. But I would be pretty excited about an Avatar game just because of it should reach a certain baseline of quality, so to speak.
And there's co-op. I think they said 2-player co-op, which was like a little disappointing. It was like, man, this feels like it should be an MMO, right? The way that they kind of set it up, but all good. Speaking of AAA games, I know we have a question about AAA games here in our list of games. Here it is. It's from PalStation VR, the ex-Meta GameCat. Says, do you think AAA hybrid games are still coming? I think this might be an easy one to answer, Wes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we answer this one a lot, and yes, I do. Now, I don't know when the floodgates are gonna break on this, and where we get a ton of them. But I think a trickle will become more of a pour over the course of the next couple of years. But they're absolutely coming. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I think too many of us, myself included, I'm not removing responsibility for this. Too many of us thought that, hey, PlayStation VR2 is going to change everything from day one, from the word go. The second this thing launches, before it even launches, we're going to see a showcase with this game and that game, AAA this, Dead Space, obviously, and just every AAA game that got announced, we're like, oh, this obviously is coming to VR. And that just didn't happen, right? And so I do think that, like every other console on the face of the planet, it's going to take a couple years for things to get moving in the way that we want them to. And so just because it didn't happen in the first 4 months doesn't mean it's not happening. And
it did happen. I mean, GT7's kind of a hybrid game.
Village.
Resident Evil 8, Village is kind of a hybrid game. So it is happening. It's just we didn't get a dozen games this year like we thought we were going to get. So
yeah. But I will say, dude, VR's never been in a better place. And I probably said this 1,000 times, but like it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. For all the people out there who think, PlayStation VR2 still doesn't have any games or whatever. Here's my thought process. You've never lived through the PlayStation VR1 lifecycle. If you think PlayStation VR2 has no games, we're getting games every single week, and we're getting good games every single week. And over the course of the next, how many more weeks are left in this year? 25, something like that, 30. There are more games coming out over the course of the rest of this year than there are weeks left in the year. And they're coming from quality studios. They're things like Journey to Foundation. They're things like Synapse. These are games that all of them I'm interested in playing. This was not the case 5 years ago. So if you think VR is dead or PlayStation VR2 isn't going to survive, we are in a much better place with a much better headset and much better controllers. We are not trailing behind PC VR from the get-go. We are matching or exceeding PC VR from the get-go. What an amazing place to be right now. So I'm super excited for the rest of this year and beyond, even if we don't get anything else AAA or hybrid for the rest of this year. And I do think that we're going to get Resident Evil 4 before the holidays, honestly.
I hope you're right. But you're right. The indies are going to be killing it this year with Behemoth and Hellsweeper and Journey to Foundation and God knows what else. We're set. Like, as reviewers, I still have a backlog, a mile long of great games that I just don't have time to play. We need less games, Brian, not more.
I mean, yeah, from my perspective, I could certainly use less games. But I will take this problem over the problem we had during the PSVR 1 generation any day
for
of
sure.
the week. Macho Vasquez with the $5 tip says quarter 3 2023 confirmed West for Ghosts of Tabor. Loads of guns in patches and updates have been added, leading you onto the release. Hype. And just FYI, I think I saw Elver in the chat with the member for 4 months membership. Ghosts of Tabor hype from Elver himself.
Hype indeed. I will say this. Hear me when I say this.
I hear you, Wes.
Quarter 3, 2023, targeted for quarter 3, 2023. Nothing's confirmed until you get a date. Okay. We're hopeful that we see it late this year, but nothing's confirmed. That's just when the devs casually said that they're targeting the PSVR2 release.
I like it. With or without it, it's gonna be a great year. Fingers crossed. Hold on, I want to make sure that we don't. I just want to thank you guys very much, first and foremost, because you guys are tipping and you're paying for pizza tonight, and I fucking love you for it. I'm just trying to keep up with all the questions here, so pardon my slowness. On topic, Mark Smith says, "I'm with Elver. Let's go, Ghost of Tabor. I'm ready for it." Right? Meow. Very nice. Get in my belly, Game Cat Wilkins with the $20 tip says, "Just a little more dough for the pizza." Thank you. I think I'll use it on extra toppings instead of extra dough, though, because who needs more dough? Yeah, sorry, that was a horrible joke. Please don't unsubscribe. Slap in the bass. Slap in the bass, or slap in dab ass. Sorry. But why was my instinct not slapping the bass? It's slapping the ass.
I don't know, man.
I think you and Miles should do Wednesday shows from now on, Wes.
We could try it. We could try it and see if it goes any better.
Nobody wants me here. With the $5 tip says, slapping that ass. With the $5 tip says, maybe off topic, but what do you guys think of the new Quest Plus subscription? It has basically convinced me to get a Meta Quest 3 this fall. Oh, well, I did not expect that the rest of that tip to go that way.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think basically it's PS Plus for VR games. And if you don't already have all these games and they keep the quality of the titles up, which, by the way, the first 4 that they announced are banger titles. So, yeah, as long as the quality of the games keep up and the price stays low, I'm all for it. Like it's $8 a month if you pay monthly, $6 a month if you buy it a year at a time. And they're giving good games away, at least initially. So, yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, I'm happy because obviously it has already convinced somebody to buy MetaQuest 3, right? And so that's the goal. That's the goal to convince people to buy things, right? Game Pass has convinced a lot of people to subscribe to Game Pass either on PC or buy an Xbox Series S or X and subscribe over there. And so subscription services are working, and hopefully it's working for Sony as well with Plus. I don't care about subscription services personally. It's just not. I think I'm too old, and that's not how I like to purchase games. That's not how I like to. I like to, seek out the thing that I'm interested in and not just be presented with a list. Here are your games this month. I stopped redeeming the Plus games a long time ago because I realized I'm never going to get to these. I just don't care, right? At a certain point, you just give in and say, well, why do I have hundreds and hundreds of games that I'm never going to play? Why even redeem it? Like, it's just pointless. I hate Nintendo's subscription service, right? The only reason I'm subscribed to Nintendo Online is so I can play Tetris 99. Because I love Tetris 99. It's the best Tetris game ever made. But I don't like the fact that that's how you play Super Nintendo games on the Switch. Like, you get to pick from a select number by paying a certain amount a month. It's like, it's just dumb, dude. Like, just put every Super Nintendo game that you can possibly put up on the store for $10 a pop. I'll buy 50 of them. Like, love Super Nintendo games. They're going to get way more money out of me that way. But that's just me. Right? Most people would prefer to say, well, I want to pay less and just play whatever's given to me. I think that's what most people would do these days. That was a long tangent.
Yeah, I think the idea is to keep people engaged. I think one of the biggest issues with Quest 2 as a platform is it's been falling off lately. People aren't playing their Quest 2s anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a way for them to try to keep people at least once a month putting their headset on and checking out some stuff that maybe they don't already have in their library.
Yeah. Yep. Keeping people engaged, keeping the headset on people, making sure that people are starting up their headset or starting up their console or whatever it is. It's like half the battle, I think, right? Like you said, keeping them engaged. So I do think it's a great idea, even if it's not personally for me. Whatever works. Whatever works. Just want to make sure we didn't miss any tips. Oh, we're good. That means we can get back to some of these viewer takeover questions. Let's rapid fire some of these. How do you feel about that? We can just do quick little answers.
Do it.
All right. Serial Killer, the Game Cat VR2 says, how often when playing a game do you purposely fail, whether for a review, a trophy, or because you just suck? Sometimes I'm curious what happens. We inherently want to win, but it's okay to fail sometimes, as it gives us a chance to learn for the next time. How often do you fail while playing a game, on purpose or not?
Not very often, although sometimes I'll find myself in a situation where, like, I'm combating a bunch of enemies and I just want to kill myself to take out as many of them as I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun, to like kind of kamikaze style. But I'm not into failing. So the situations don't arise very often where I do it voluntarily.
Yeah, I do it voluntarily if there's a trophy associated with it, and I really hate that, because I feel like trophies should be for things you succeed at, not for purposely failing at things. But for review, I'm like, oh, well, what happens if I jump off this ledge? Will they let me jump off the ledge? If I fall, is there something to land on? Or do I just die? How does the game handle falling? It's these little things that I'm always curious about for a review, which never makes it into the review, but I just want to be thorough. Darkwing Chuck says, obviously we'd prefer VR games included in the existing PlayStation Plus. Ooh, it's another subscription question. But what would you think of Sony doing a VR specific subscription like Quest Plus?
It'd be cool if there was an option, like you join Plus. Do you prefer traditional or VR? I don't think we have enough catalog with VR2 to do that. I think it makes more sense right now for them to just give one VR2 game per month.
Yep.
The same way they give one PS5 game per month right now. But in the long term, philosophically, I would like for it to eventually become an option. Like VR gamers, traditional gamers, pick which PS Plus that you would like to have.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about a specific, again, because it's not for me, so I don't think my opinion really matters here. What I would like is to kind of reference an earlier question we had about multiplayer games. Sony seemed to be really behind CSMASH, right? They were putting it on the PlayStation blog. They were putting the trailers up on the PlayStation YouTube channel. Why not give this away for a plus tier, right? Why not throw this, if you're really behind this game and you want it to succeed, why not throw a bunch of the money into developers and say, we're going to make this a plus game at launch for the first month. And then that way you're guaranteed a user base. And then, do the Rocket League thing, and hopefully word of mouth will help sell it.
Yeah. Get yourself at least through the launch window, have people in the game. And if it's in everybody's library, people are going to play it. So.
Yeah. Aloe Show with the viewer takeover question. When do you think PSVR2 games like Village, Horizon, and Gran Turismo 7 will be surpassed?
That's difficult. So, surpassed in terms of quality.
I mean,
that's going to be tough, man. That's going to be tough. We're talking about some of the best games that VR's ever seen at this point. The technology does move quickly. I'll say that. I'll say that typically over time, developers settle in and become more adept at taking advantage of a platform's features, working within the hardware, so to speak. So you would think year over year, the high watermark would get higher and higher. So I don't know. If I had to put a time frame on it, I'd say 2 years from now, we should see some games that are better than the ones that are coming out right now, and that should be the case perpetually going forward.
Yeah, I will say, a little inside baseball here, a little behind the scenes stuff. One of the reasons that I've been talking to all the guys on the Without Parole crew saying, we need to do a top 25 debate soon. We need to do a top 25 list soon for the channel, because I want to see how much it changes from early July to early December, right? Because for so long, the PlayStation VR1 list didn't change. We'd go a year or two without major changes. It'd be like, games would be swapped in and swapped out, but the top 10 would always be pretty similar. I don't think that's going to be the case this generation. As somebody in the chat already said, Resident Evil 4, I think Jordan F. Said when Resident Evil 4 comes, as far as I'm concerned, it looks better in the trailer than Village does, right? Just like, I think the art style looks really nice. And so, like, I think that 4 could easily supersede Village for me. Then it's like, okay, well, what's the next racing game that'll supersede Gran Turismo 7? And for me, it's going to be an arcade racing game, because I'm an arcade racer. So if we get a Ridge Racer game or a Burnout game or a Need for Speed game in VR, first person that supports the wheel, dude, that's likely going to supersede Gran Turismo for me. And this obviously comes down to tastes, like what you're interested in. But hopefully we'll be seeing that kind of quality more often, and then we'll kind of fuck with the top 10 list, top 10 of the top 25 more frequently. Yep.
Great.
Yep. Who's next? We answered some of these questions already, which is good. Keepy Uppy. Is it possible that Sony is still in the soft launch mode because of reprojection issues? Could this also be why there's no media apps? It blows my mind. There's no way to watch 3D in 180 movies.
Yeah, I don't think reprojection has anything to do with that. But and I don't think that we're in soft launch mode anymore. And even if we were, I don't think reprojection would be the reason why. I think if we're still in soft launch mode, it's because some of the bigger budget titles that they have in development just aren't ready yet. And they're waiting till they have a stable of titles ready to launch to really start kicking up the advertisement. I don't know why there are no way to watch 3D movies. That's kind of senseless to me. As you can do it on PSVR1, you can do it on Quest. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do that on PSVR2. That's a good question.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to release a follow-up to PlayStation VR1 with fewer features than PlayStation VR1 had is mind-boggling. Yeah. However, the PlayStation 5 launched with fewer features than the PlayStation 4. So, I mean, not unprecedented, Sony. Not unprecedented. Here we got so many questions. So many questions.
Oldar says that's the Sony way. Right.
Sunlight Blade 11 says, how good is the replayability of Village compared to Resident Evil 7? Have you played both these games enough to know?
I haven't played 8 enough to know. I still haven't finished 8. Like, I'm about 75% through it from what I understand. But 7 was highly replayable, just on quality alone. It wasn't because they made me want to go back and chase trophies or anything like that. I just love it so much that I go back to it. And I feel like the same thing will be true of Village. But I don't know yet. We're still in the early days. But I would say they're pretty comparable.
I'm going to give the nod to Resident Evil 7. I think Village obviously has the better VR implementation, but that's not what the question is. It's about replayability, and I do love how much stuff you can unlock in Village, but it doesn't unlock in the same way that 7 does. And also, so 7, says, hey, if you beat the game under this many hours, if you do this, if you do that, and it's all done in the same framework as the flat screen version. In Village, it's done in, hey, we gave you more goats because we didn't give you all the modes. So go find more goats to unlock more stuff in the store. And they didn't give us trophies this time, right? And in platinuming Resident Evil 7 after my 5th or 6th playthrough, whatever it was, and I had unlocked so many things. I unlocked the ability to run faster. I had unlocked infinite ammo. I had unlocked, and just like every single time I beat the game, they kind of gave me something else to play through again with. Like, oh, the circular saw. This is cool. And then when I finally get the platinum trophy, it felt so rewarding. Like all of that work. It's like now I can put that up on my mantle and say, I finished. I beat this game. I've seen everything there is to see.
There's a circular saw?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now I need to go back and play it again.
Yep. Yeah, I forget. I always forget which what the requirements are to unlock all the different things. But I beat that game so many times, and most of those times were live on Without Parole. So, yeah. Earthcook in the chat says Resident Evil 7 was a better game too. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. The Baker family is classic. The boss fights are less epic than Village, but definitely creepier. Good times.
I agree with that.
All right, we're going to do... I don't want to keep you out here all night, Wes. So just going to do one or two more, and then we'll... and then we'll do some 20 questions and call it a day. Mark Pringlesleaf says, name 5 PSVR games that you would want ported over to PSVR 2. Immortal Legacy.
Mark Point. Oh, I'll let you go first.
No, I thought we were doing this together.
Okay, we can do it together.
So you said Farpoint. I said Immortal Legacy.
Yeah. I'll say Rush of Blood.
Oh yeah, that's a good choice. I'm gonna say Resident Evil 7. it's the correct answer to every viewer takeover question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, then I'll say, and I was just thinking about this yesterday and every other day. Here They Lie.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Playing Synapse in that beautiful black and white, crystal clear world just makes me think just how beautiful Here They Lie could be in this headset.
Yeah. Yep. Also, Astrobot, Everybody's Golf, Blood and Truth, fucking Persistence, and Dire Say What?
Yeah.
Everything. All of the games.
Everything.
Yep.
Yeah, all the games. That's the right answer.
All right. Wes, you've got some viewer takeover questions in front of you. Why don't you pick the last one, because I still need to pick a 20 questions game. Give me just a second here.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to ask your question, NDVR, but I do think it's funny. Right, that's kind of stuff we already touched on. All right, here's one. What kinds of games, and this is from NDVR, by the way. I was talking about your other question that I wasn't going to ask, your most recent one. From NDVR, what kind of games, food, and music will the Bryan and Wes Lovechild enjoy the most? I think it's pretty easy question to answer, unless it's one of these things where our child turns out to be complete opposite of us. But definitely horror games and pizza. These are these are no-brainers, right?
Absolutely. If we don't pass that on to our Lovechild, I don't know what we've done something wrong.
And this, in terms of music, also very similar. Like we each kind of have the same wide palette of taste in music. I tend to like, my favorite stuff tends to be more on the heavier side, and I think your favorite stuff tends to fall more on the alternative rock, punk rock side. Am I right about that?
Yeah, MCR. Yep.
Yeah, but I like all the stuff you like, and you like all the stuff I like. So
yeah. Also love me some rock acoustic music. Folk rock music too. Josh Ritter. Good stuff. Yeah,
I have an affinity for a lot of different music. I just hate pop music, and it doesn't matter what kind of pop it is. It could be pop rock or pop country. All of it, kind of. I have no respect for the made-for-radio music. I don't like it.
I say that, and I feel like I've been saying that since I was 17 or younger, even. But then a song gets stuck in my head. Yeah, like I like
because it was made to get stuck in your head.
Yeah, well, you know what? Success, and you got to enjoy some shit sometimes, Wes. Sometimes you got to enjoy the thing that was made to be enjoyed, and these things are made to be enjoyed. For example, Lav's I like you better, or I like me better when I'm with you. That song fucking will never leave my head, lives rent free. And I will say it's a Justin Bieber song, but it was written by Ed Sheeran, so I give it a little bit more credibility. But Love Yourself, like fucking, how can that not stick in your head like constantly? These are not songs in genres that I listen to. Neither is the iCarly theme song, but that shit's stuck in my head constantly. Right? But yeah, I respect most music. I'll say that, even if I don't enjoy it, or I try not to enjoy it despite my best efforts.
Growing up where I did, and my parents being musicians, I hated country music. I hated it so much growing up. It's all I heard all the time. It was so simplistic, and I really just had no love for it whatsoever. But now, my parents always told me, you'll like it when you get older. And I don't, really. I still don't. But
the story that didn't go as you expected, everyone.
But I will say this. I do have respect for traditional country now versus today's radio pop country, which isn't even country music at all. It's like an R&B soul ripoff with a twang to it. It's so terrible. So I have a lot of respect for like Waylon Jennings and
like Hank Williams.
George Strait and Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and all that. Like I have respect for that. I feel like at least that's true art, whereas the garbage on the radio is just friggin' like an advertisement. It's just like the musical form of an advertisement to me. It's just terrible.
Back when this is such a dumb segue, but I'm telling it anyway because I got nowhere else to talk about it. Back when I was in junior high school, I forget, and my brother was a senior, he would drive us both into school. It was like a fucking long ass drive. We lived out in the country. Our school was way out in the city, and it was like an hour drive, right, each way. And so we'd make mixtapes, and my brother, who was like head over heels crushing on this girl who loved country music, and she went line dancing every week. And so my brother, because he liked this girl, started listening to country music and started going line dancing every week, right? And I was like, man, if you don't get this girl, then this is a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted effort. He didn't. And now I know every single word of Brooks and Dunn Neon Light because that was on every one of his mixtapes, dude. It's like, really don't need this shit in my life, but here it is. And I do have some kind of appreciation for it because of that.
Right.
All right, you ready to play some 20 questions?
Yeah, but really quickly, Zick Lightning in the chat says Mike Patton, and I agree, Mike Patton.
Refresh my memory. Why don't I? I'm not making the connection.
Mike Patton, Faith No More, Mr. Bungle,
okay, yep,
Phantomus, about 1,000 other projects. We love Mike Patton. He's probably the most talented vocalist I've ever heard live. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I don't want to lie and be like, oh, I'm a huge fan, but this I've definitely heard a few of his different projects for sure, and again, appreciate it. All right, man, we're gonna put 6 minutes up on the clock up on the counter. We're gonna do this. Make sure everybody in the chat helps Wes out because this ain't gonna be easy. And maybe it will. I don't fucking know. On your mark, get Des, go.
Is this game one of the top 9 PlayStation VR games of 2023?
No. You've eliminated 9 games.
It was worth burning the question just for the laugh.
You've eliminated 8 games actually, because Demon Slayer wasn't even a VR game.
right, because it didn't have VR support. That's
major con.
Yeah. Has this game been announced for or launched on PSVR2?
Sadly, no.
Sadly, no.
That is a clue.
Have we talked about this game during this episode?
I don't think that this game came up at all during this episode.
Okay, so it's not any of the ones that we said was sad that we don't have yet. Right.
Yeah, I was just trying to say it's good enough that we'd want it. That's all I was trying to say. Don't read deeper into that.
Right. Okay. Well, let's just get to it then. Let's. Is this game? Does it support thumbstick movement?
No.
No. Okay. Is this a first-person game?
Yes, that's 5.
Full locomotion?
Yes.
So full locomotion. So most likely moves only. Is this a shooter?
You wouldn't call it that, no, but they're shooting.
There is shooting, but okay. Let's think about that for a minute. There are games with some shooting, but aren't shooters per se. Is it scary? Does that have a horror theme?
No, sir.
Would you consider it to be like an adventure game?
No.
Okay, so that's interesting. So it's not an adventure game. It's got some shooting, but not a lot. I would consider like Pixel Rip to be like an adventure game, even though it's retro.
I
You
would
are
too.
going on an adventure. Is it a tower defense game? That's a good question.
No, that's 10.
Just this isn't a question as one of the questions, but in general, with regard to the format here, do we consider archery games shooting games or not? I've wondered this before. I've just never asked.
Yeah, I think it depends. I feel like the correct answer should be like not shooting guns, right? Kind of like clue the person in that you're
Okay, I gotcha.
You know, but yeah, it's
but you kind of give it away when you do that.
Wes, it's guns.
Yeah,
just letting you know.
It's guns.
Yep.
Okay. Is it? So there's full movement. So it can't be like a Roller Coaster Legends or anything like that. Is it multiplayer?
No.
No, it's
not in a traditional sense.
Okay, so there's leaderboards. There's some shooting and there's leaderboards, but it's not all about the shooting. So it can't be like a pistol whip or anything like that. Interesting. Are there vehicles?
No vehicles.
No, I burnt that one. I already knew there was full locomotion. I shouldn't have asked that. It's not archery, guys. It's not archery. Ian Sandbridge wants to know if this is like a carnival game type thing.
Like a bunch of mini games, that kind of thing, or
right?
No.
Red Matter 2 is an adventure game, and I think I may even asked if it was like a puzzler too. So no, can't be any of this.
Yeah.
No puzzles. I mean, you shoot a lot in Hop Along the Badlands. Is it Western themed, Brian?
Nope.
No. So it's not a shooter. So we keep coming up with shooters. These are not shooters. Is it cartoony?
No, I think they're going for realism here. That's 15.
Realism. Yep. So realism with some shooting. It's not a puzzle game. There's full locomotion, first person. It's guns that you're shooting. Can you fly in this game?
No flying. No flying.
Hitman. I mean, I would call Hitman a shooter. I mean, I know that's simplistic, but I would call Hitman a shooter. And can you even shoot in Job Simulator? I don't remember being able to shoot a gun in Job Simulator.
I wouldn't call Hitman a shooter, but it's not Hitman, so.
Okay. LA Noire. Yeah, I don't think so. Man, I'm kind of stumped here.
Yeah, the chat is not helpful today. Good job.
No, not very helpful at all. Is it procedural? Like
yeah, in certain modes.
Okay, but there's no flying, so it can't be like No Man's Sky.
No, I'm gonna give you a few more seconds here because we wasted time talking about some shit, even though the time's up.
Yeah, I don't. I'm drawing a blank. I don't think I'm gonna get it. It's always baby hands, Ian Sandbridge. You're absolutely right.
There's some shooting in baby hands. No guns though, sadly.
Yeah, no guns. Yeah, man, I think I'm gonna have to tap out here. I'm drawing a blank, and Super Hot's a shooter, Looper. Yeah.
What if I said one word, rooftops?
Stride.
That's it, man. It is Stride.
I would have never got. I could have had 10 more questions. I would have never got Stride. Good one.
Came out April 24th, 2022, for the low price of $15, and they raised it to $20, and then they never delivered any updates for us. Real shame, because I think this game's a lot of fun. I think this game could be something special, and on PSVR2, I think it would be fantastic, especially with the upcoming
story mode coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like these guys, we see how they operate. Absolutely. You know, like they make 7 games, and then which one makes money? That's what we're going to focus on. Stride's got to be making them money. That's the one, right? And so why wouldn't they port it to PSVR 2? Maybe only because they had a bad experience with PSVR 1. I don't know.
Dead Hook's pretty fun, by the way. That's one of the titles that we're covering this week from Joyway. As far as I know, it's only slated to be a Quest release at this point. But it's pretty good. Like the gameplay loop is pretty fun. It is procedural. And it's kind of like they're taking heavy inspiration from like Doom VFR, but they've incorporated grappling into it, kind of like Everslot style grappling, where you can, instead of teleporting into enemies, you're grappling into them and blowing them up. And the gameplay is pretty smooth. It's pretty fun. So hopefully it comes to PSVR 2 at some point in the future.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you to everybody who submitted a viewer takeover question today. It was a fun way to spend the day, just kind of casually hanging out and answering questions, shooting the shit with the cats. Always love doing that. Don't forget, we try to answer viewer takeover questions on every single show. So if you didn't get yours read today, then hey, head on over to Discord, leave it in the viewer takeover channel, and maybe we'll answer it on a future episode. Make sure you go subscribe to Wes over at Virtual Strangers. Click the link in the description below. And I think we got I don't know what N-Dreams has said specifically about the Synapse embargo, although Jimmy did say during the AMA that the review embargo is up later this week. So that's coming soon. Stay tuned for that. For all the Patreon supporters, the $5 plus tier, I'm going to make sure that that my interview with David Hayter and Jennifer Hale goes up on Patreon tonight at some point. And then if you're not a Patreon subscriber, don't worry. It'll be up on the actual channel, regular channel, early next week. So be patient about that. And of course, Synapse review coming soon. I think that's everything. Is that everything, Wes?
That is everything. Yeah.
All right.
I believe you're right. I think you checked all the boxes.
Cool.
Way to go.
Thanks. I do my best. Well, sometimes I do 7 out of 10, you know?
Right.
But thank you everybody who hung out. Thank you everybody who supports the channel financially, not just over here as being a member, but over on patreon.com/withoutparole Thank you to everyone who tipped today. Thanks to everybody who hung out during the show. Thanks to all my moderators, Sci-Fi Game Cat Henry, who may or may not, no, he's not getting timestamps done for 2 weeks. So if anybody feels like doing timestamps, email them to me withoutparole@gmail.com. I don't think any timestamps are showing up, Wes. I could be wrong. And also Jay Meow, who hopefully is still uploading this on podcast services of your choice. I have no idea. Haven't talked to Jay in like a month, so maybe the podcasts have just been MIA. Who the fuck knows? Thanks to everybody who hung out today, and everybody who sat back, watched the show, and didn't say a goddamn word. We know you're out there, and we love you just as much. Happy Wednesday, Wes.
Happy Wednesday, Brian.
I'm Croon in the chat says, I can rewatch this episode. Yes. I think.
Yes.
Hopefully he's responding to, asking about this episode. This. Oh yeah, because, okay.
Yeah.
I see how it's going. Yes. As soon as these videos are over, they are available to watch forever on YouTube, or as long as YouTube doesn't go the way of MySpace, where lots and lots of pictures from my 20s just no longer exist.
As long as there's no footage of the Apple Vision Pro, then you can rewatch the episode.
Oh man. But even then, I made it happen.
Through that.
I'm patting myself on the back right now. You guys can't see me, but I'm masturbating.
There it is.
All right, dude. I need to drink less coffee. Good night, everybody. We love you.